Hi everybody, this is SideReel, the show where we talk about films and television. I'm Jake Meck, and this is my guest, Sean Hogan.
How you doing?
So have you seen any movies recently, Sean?
Not in theaters, no. Recently, however, I actually just kind of went to the library, took out some movies, and I watched Frank, which is a movie about like an indie rock band that's kind of off the wheels, and that was,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one particularly.
I heard about that movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very strange, but it's got a lot of themes that I really like, and it's well shot. And then I also saw Bernie, the
Bernie's a
movie
great
where
movie.
Black Jack plays, Jack Black
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
plays a mortician.
Yeah, it's a Richard Linklater film. Isn't it?
I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but it was very good. I greatly enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, I saw that too a while back. It was really, really funny. Yeah, recently I've actually saw the film Green Room, which I heard about this like months back because it had one of the best premises to a film ever.
I haven't really heard about it too
It's
much.
about a group of punk rockers who have to face off against a bunch of neo-Nazi bikers led by a Nazi Patrick Stewart.
Are you serious?
And it sounded amazing. It was like the best like idea for like a story ever. And I went to go see it, and it was a really well-made movie. It was really good. Not at all what I thought it was going to be. I mean, from the premise, you would think it was like a silly Quentin Tarantino, like sardonic type, like not really cartoony, but just kind of like sillier, weightless type movie, you know. But it was actually one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. It was
Really?
Yeah, it was
Kind of pulled the twist on you, turned into a horror?
well, yeah, it's the film, it's very similar to like John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. It's like a siege film where this misfit band of punk rockers are kind of down on their luck. They don't really have any good gigs anywhere, and they're running out of money. And a friend of theirs finds them a job at this skinhead club down in like rural Oregon, and they decide that they just to take it because they need money and they really need to get their name out there. So they go to the club and they play the show. It actually goes pretty all right. And while they were leaving, setting all their stuff off and they're leaving, one of the band members ends up witnessing a murder backstage, and the club's owners end up locking the whole band inside of the club's green room.
Ooh, bad move.
Yeah, to keep them from getting out. And throughout the whole film, a good half of it's more or less just in this one room as they're negotiating with the people outside of it, the Nazi bikers.
Right.
And it's really tense, really well written, very
Is it kind of
great
like
acting.
that Tarantino conversational type
Yeah,
movie?
it's not as like pop culture-ish as oriented as his films, but it's very similar. Where it's one or two characters, a lot of witty back and forth kind of banter. One person trying to kind of get the one up the other person, and you know the band members know that the biker gang is probably going to kill them, but they're trying to find a way to trick them into letting them out, and the bikers are trying to find a way to like get them to get them out of the room so they could shoot them. So it's a really intense standoff type movie, and then the second part of it just goes into a full-on, just horribly violent, like slasher horror film, as the band decides to try and break out and fight their way out. And you know, I've seen like a lot of violent movies in my life, like Quentin Tarantino type movies, you know, horror movies, and
Yeah.
I consider myself to be kind of not as weak-hearted as some other people are when it comes to that kind of stuff, but this movie really made me feel uncomfortable, and I mean that genuinely. Like, the violence in it is not like cartoon violence. It's like really like horrific. It's really
Grotesque.
Yeah, it's really slowly kind of shot, and it works to the film's advantage in a way because it shows just how messed up the situation is and how horrifying it is. It's not as cheesy as the premise makes it out to be.
All right.
Which, yeah, it's a really great movie, really tense, great writing, great acting.
So it was like advertised a little differently than it actually ended up being?
Yeah. Like, it's not even necessarily the advertising, it's just that all the critics who talked about it made it seem like it was going to be a sardonic type of like Quentin Tarantino-esque film where, yeah, it's violent, but it's like, oh, it's fun, it's kind of like goofy.
Right.
Somebody, like one of the top critics even called it wickedly fun. And it's not at all. I mean, it's very straight-faced, just really
disturbing.
Yeah, it's really messed up. It's not fun at all. I mean, the violence in it, it's not like, cartoon violence. It's really like, graphic. But for what it was, though, I mean, as far as thrillers go, it's probably one of the most intense movies I've ever seen. I mean, the tension keeps ramping up throughout the entire picture, and it never really seems to stop until the very end. So, yeah, I definitely recommend Green Room. Don't go to see it if you're expecting something fun to watch. It's not at all an enjoyable film to watch in any way. I would recommend seeing it if you like thrillers or horror movies. But yeah, don't go into it expecting something that you're going to enjoy watching, because it's not at all.
I'm personally not a fan of those big, like, explosive thrillers that are just
Yeah.
like, blood.
Yeah, like
I'm
one
more a
thing
fan
after
of, like,
another.
the psychological thrillers that just kind of sneak up on you, like, I don't know.
Alfred Hitchcock type movie.
Yeah, Hitchcock type movies.
The first half of the movie is like that. It builds tension. It's very slow. It's just really about dialogue and character building. It's just the second half of it just explodes, and it's really. It was very engaging. I just don't know, even though it was only an hour and a half, just how much of sitting through really authentically made fake violence. I really just got kind of tired with it, I guess, to some extent. I mean, maybe that's just me, because maybe I'm just not really suited for that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a great movie other than that. It's just, I felt like it kind of went a little overboard. Even though it helped make the movie more scary, I felt like the violence really might have been a little overdone. But yeah, it was still a very solidly made film, and I definitely see why a lot of critics really liked it. But yeah, that's it for movies that are currently out right now.
Well, did you happen to see Ratchet and Clank at all?
No, I did not.
Because that bombed.
Yeah, critically and commercially, it's not doing very well.
No.
Especially commercially, for like a kids animated space adventure movie, I was expecting it would make some amount of
commercially,
revenue.
you would think opening weekend it might have a little bit more just because it's that kind of goofy style. But
Yeah.
as a video game movie, it's not really surprising to see something go economically terrible like
And
this.
critically, yeah.
Right.
And people usually say like video game movies, they can't really work. And for the most part, I agree with that. But I was kind of shocked that Insomniac Studios, the people who make the Ratchet and Clank games, they were involved very heavily with it. The animation studio that makes the animation for the games made it for the film, which I thought would have been better.
Did the writers for the game work on the film?
The director wasn't. I don't know if the writer was. All I know is that director, his only credits is making a bunch of like crappy straight-to-DVD, VHS films. So
If you think about getting the studio's permission,
Yeah.
Spielberg wrote off on Atari for the
Yeah.
2600. That
That's-
doesn't getting a studio's permission to do anything really doesn't matter if you're not getting like a team
The
that can
exact
actually
same.
pull it
Yeah.
off, or a team that they'll all know, the audience will all
Yeah.
love, that they can make something like that.
yeah, like the Silent Hill movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I
or
have, yeah.
If you played any of the games.
I've definitely played.
Yeah, the first
more than
Silent
my
Hill
share.
movie is not a perfect movie by any means,
Oh, God,
but
no.
you can tell, and especially from the director as well, is a really big fan of the games. There's a lot of
It feels
Yeah.
very close to it.
Yeah, it feels like there was a lot of effort put into it to making it feel true to the games, even if the film itself kind of sucked.
Right.
But whereas something like Ratchet and Clank, it just kind of feels like it was made, like written and directed by people who really didn't know what made the games as good. I suppose.
It's also an odd choice for a video game movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a game that came out for the PS1, I
PS2.
believe, PS2.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have too much like story substance as much as it does everything else. Because if I remember, it's a like platformer, Donkey Kong 64 type kind of
Platformer,
game.
shooter,
game, yeah.
action game, yeah.
So like, there's not too much story going on
No.
there as much as there is just like action and
jokes.
playing and jokes, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to build off of something that doesn't have a huge universe around it, and I suppose that's where critically it could have failed.
Yeah, because the last game came out in like the last official game,
Oh,
not
God, I don't even know.
not including the tie-in game that came with the movie, but the last like official game came out in like 2009, I believe.
Right.
So it is kind of an odd choice
Reviving
for a film.
dead series.
Especially out of all the other games that are really popular that could make a lot of money off a movie. It's just surprising that
Still
that was
waiting
one.
for my Call of Duty 27
yeah.
game.
Yeah, speaking of other films that are being rebooted, Alien 5 was, well, actually there's two Alien films. There's the sequel to Prometheus, which is already going to put a bad, that's not going to go well with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then there's the Alien 5, which is a sequel to Alien Resurrection made by Neil Blomkamp, the same director of District 9 and Elysium, which is oddly enough going to retcon out 3 in Resurrection. It's going to be a complete straight sequel to Aliens, which also gets rid of Aliens Colonial Marines, which was actually canon was considered canon by Fox.
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun.
So this is the second reboot or retconning of canon after Aliens, because it took that many time for people to not mess it up that much.
I mean, does studio-based canon actually mean anything? Technically, Ed Norton Hulk is Marvel canon.
That's
because
true.
It's got the Samuel L. Jackson scene at the end of it, but does anybody really consider...
Not Mark Ruffalo, yeah.
Yeah, but even so, like, just put Mark Ruffalo in there. The movie was lackluster at best, and even then, it doesn't seem to really fit in with everything else either.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about Alien. I mean, like, I love the first two movies. I think people are kind of divided on the third one, and the fourth one everyone really hates.
Yeah.
And then Prometheus is, again, kind of divided. But it's just interesting that they feel the need to constantly go back and try and fix things and fix fan love for it, but then constantly fail and then restart and go back to the exact same spot.
It's just like reviving old comedies and making like, oh, Dumb and Dumber 2. Nobody actually wanted Dumb and Dumber 2. We already had a sequel to movies like Dumb and Dumber. Or even now, Spaceballs 2.
Yeah.
That's going to be terrible. Mel Brooks is what, 90?
Yeah.
I mean,
if he even does it.
His comedic genius is beyond me.
Yeah.
Like, he is a hilarious man and a great writer. But there is no need to revive this series.
No.
There's no need. Spaceballs is a perfect movie. Why destroy the legacy?
Yeah, and they're doing this with a lot of films. Like, and I know people complain about remakes, but even just sequels or any kind of continuation of like a series, like Alien. You know, Alien 1 and 2 were great films. They ended perfectly. There's no real need to add more, let alone trying to keep going back to the part where you messed up and redo it.
Oh, crap, let's fix this real quick.
Yeah.
And also something like Pirates 5 just got announced.
Yeah, like...
Nothing past Pirates 2 is really any good. I mean, people were like, Pirates 4 is okay. I mean, the real only one people like is Pirates of the Caribbean 1.
Yeah, and some people liked it.
Some people.
Yeah.
I'm not personally too big of it's
3,
okay.
I don't even remember.
3 is the one where they fight in the giant whirlpool.
Is that the one with the little squid dude with the squid face?
Yeah, David Jones.
Yeah, David Jones. I only remember him from SpongeBob. I honestly don't think of him.
Is it David Jones? I
It
feel
is
like his name is something else at this
probably.
point. But yeah, tentacle-faced dude, and they like walk out onto the island, and he's sitting in the bucket of water because he can't leave the water. Oh my! It's just why bother?
That's how like most of these sequels go. It's just like a continuation of something that was done already. Like,
right. It's like we don't need Zoolander 2.
No.
We don't need Dumb and Dumber 2. We don't need Spaceballs 2. We don't need Alien 5. We don't need Prometheus 2. None of these movies need to be made. These studios are just looking for those cash cows.
Yeah.
Rather than putting their money into original content, they're just taking these old movies that they know will make money and saying, here, have it. You might not even want it, but you'll still go see it.
Yeah. And that holds true, too, in some ways for content that, like, Western audiences aren't as exactly familiar with. For example, like, The Departed was a really beloved movie, but that was actually, like, a straight-up remake of an, I believe it was, like, a Korean film called Internal Affairs.
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar. So there are a lot of films that do that are improved in that way by being remade or sequelized, where they kind of improve on the original. But yeah, in many or even just most cases where this is done, it's really just for a cash grab.
Now, if we're going to be talking about Western movies being made, we should probably address Ghost in the Shell.
Yes.
Because okay, so Scarlett Johansson being cast as Motoko Kusanagi, the main character from the Ghost in the Shell manga and anime.
Yeah.
Japanese show. a lot of people are getting really upset about Hollywood whitewashing yet again, and I will definitely agree with them. It's annoying to see it happen.
Same thing with Doctor Strange. A lot of people were upset about that. It's
annoying to see it happen, but I do want to say some things about this because I've watched and read Ghost in the Shell. For those people who don't know, basically, the main character, Motoko Kusanagi, is a cyborg. Okay, so she doesn't even have to be Japanese. She could be any race. She could be white. She could be Hispanic. It doesn't
robot
really matter.
person.
Right. Yes. Exactly. So the fact that it takes place in Japan.
I identify as a Mac computer.
The fact that it takes place in Japan, sure, it would have been better to have an Asian American actress play the. But it doesn't. It doesn't matter for the story's purpose. Is what I'm basically trying to get across. It's annoying. They could have picked somebody. If you've ever seen Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ming-Na Wen, she's a good actress. She can do the action that's required for the show, or the movie rather, and she would have been a great choice. But obviously, you want to get that household name. Yeah. Because you say Scarlett Johansson, people know who Scarlett Johansson is.
Most people don't know that actress or another actress I would have chosen too. I don't even know her name, and this kind of proves to the point. Who was in Pacific Rim? She probably would have done a decent job. But yeah, not a whole lot of people are familiar with Asian American actresses at all.
Right. Whereas if you take someone like Scarlett Johansson, who has been in many, many, many successful movies,
known throughout the world, not just in the U.S.
You put someone with this big name in there, people are going to go watch this movie. They're going to say, "Oh, Scarlett Johansson's in this movie. I'm going to go see that." Whereas Ming-Na Wen is in this movie. You're really only going to get that cult fan following of the actual movies and books that come along with it.
Now, one thing to note, and I'm not entirely caught up to date with every single detail in this whole story, I did hear that with the Ghost in the Shell production that they were trying to make either Scarlett Johansson or some of the actors in the background look as if they were Asian, even though they weren't. Which, if that's true,
I mean, first of all, they said, first of all, if they're gonna deny it, that's one thing. But when people accuse them of it, they say, no, we weren't doing Scarlett Johansson. We were doing background actors. We weren't
because we couldn't hire random Asian people to go in the background.
Don't lie to us. At least be like, okay, yeah, this is pretty bad, and we did it. I mean, you're not getting past anyone. Nobody's going to spend their time and effort CGing a background actor's face. It's stupid. It's unnecessary.
But it costs less money just to get Asian actors in the background.
Right, exactly. And I don't even know what to say about that. It's just stupid. Like, if you're going to have a white actress portray a Japanese character, then just do it. Just kind of tell everyone, we don't care what you think. We're going to put Scarlett Johansson in here. You're all going to go see the movie anyways.
Yeah, or just change the character to fit the localization, like the Ring or the Grudge, I think. The American version of that had an American actress in the role, but it worked because even though the film took place in Japan, they used the context that it was an American character who visited Japan.
Right.
Which made it not seem like whitewashing. Yeah. Which, again, like they could have done the same thing with Ghost in the Shell, say, she's a cyborg, she was made in America, whatever.
Like you could move the location of the actual movie.
SideReel-our, whatever.
I mean, SideReel-our. That's good. I like that. But then you've got, it's happened with a lot of anime movies in particular. Like
Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball Evolution. Ooh, that's a fun one. The last Airbender movie. Even though that one's a bit odd based on the way it goes, because they're kind of all from around the world, but also not really. It's basically all just Japan and Asia. Yeah. But then you also have the new Death Note movie that got announced. They're going through possible actors for that, and they had like a list apparently. So I've heard. I probably should check this more in depth, but they had a list of actors they were going through, and apparently they narrowed it down, and they basically only have white actors left. Now, I don't remember if this is an American-made Death Note film or Japanese. I'm guessing it's American-made.
If they localize it in America, like, oh, this takes place in Massachusetts or whatever, like that would be totally fine. But if they say, like, oh, it's in Japan, but all the main characters are white who just exchange students,
that's a bit weird.
That would be a little weird. Like, I'm not really someone who gets overly sensitive of stuff like this. Like, I don't really care for the most part, but it's still really disheartening.
It's not. It's whatever. Like, okay, you're gonna do this. whatever.
It shows how little they care about their actual films, like Gods of Egypt. Like, oh, it's a movie about Egypt, but we're not going to have any like Middle Eastern or African like actors in it. It's all just white people.
Just
like,
all white people. It's annoying to see because you think it's upsetting, but like they're putting so much more money than they have to into these household names.
Yeah.
Like if they were to get an actual actor for the race they were trying to portray, it would probably not be as expensive as getting someone up there, getting someone who's as popular as the people they're getting.
Yeah.
So it's really showing that they're trying to bank in as much profit as possible from a household name rather than put that money into the production of the film.
Yeah, to make a good film, but yeah.
I could go on about that.
Yeah, we really could. Hollywood producers are kind of not exactly the smartest of the bunch. But yeah, that's as far as the race wars will go.
I'm going to go back to video game movies for a second here.
We're going to talk about the Shinobi movie?
I was going to talk about Borderlands,
but we can start with
Shinobi.
Shinobi was a really old Sega Genesis, Sega Master System game that nobody
I honestly forgot this game existed.
Nobody under the age of 30 should even like know about. I mean, this is like Ninja Gaiden, but like even less known about. And they haven't even done like a reboot of it, like Strider or Ninja Gaiden.
No.
And they want to make a live-action movie of it. Why? I have no idea.
Here's the thing: is there's a lot of creative room there. It's something like we've been talking about. Like they have these large universes where they don't have much room to move around in. Whereas with a game this old for the Sega Genesis, you have a lot of wiggle room.
That's true, because it is about ninjas and like modern day.
Right. You have a lot of space to go. I kind of want to do this.
Yeah.
So you can just do it because there's not going to be as much of a story.
You can't make a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh, that would be something.
Oh man, I love that.
All right. Okay, now Borderlands.
Yes.
Movies being made by Lionsgate, if I do recall correctly.
Yeah.
Lionsgate with some Marvel producers in there.
Yeah, and they've stated they want it to be a very dark black comedy with some gritty undertones to it, and very violent.
Is it going to be rated R? Is this the first we're going to see of the Deadpool chain coming into effect?
I'm going to assume, because they said it was going to be like dark and
gritty, right?
And kind of violent. And Kingsman was another movie. Came out in the same month span as Deadpool, but a year before, and that did really well in theaters. So I think they are kind of going along with that chain of like hyper violent, goofy.
Grr, we're rated R, and it's really funny for adults.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's not Batman v Superman. Look how gritty and stark and realistic this is, even though it's about two dudes in spandex fighting each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Have you played Borderlands?
Yeah, I love Borderlands 2 and
Borderlands 2 I like a lot, yeah. It's a funny game.
Yeah, there's a lot of personality.
It's interesting. There's a large world. There's a lot of personality to the characters.
Yeah.
Even just like kind of random characters you can have fun with. I don't know if they're going to be creating their own story around the world of Pandora or whatnot, but there's a good amount of room to be creative.
Did you ever play Telltale's the Border Tales?
I did not play that.
It was excellent, and it was completely new characters that they made and a completely new storyline.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was actually really impressed by that because Telltale games are basically like TV shows or movies made into a game where you just watch it play out.
Let's watch.
So yeah, like I mean, I still kind of have to remain cynical because it is a video game movie.
It's a video game movie, and they don't do well, and it's just a known fact that we're going to be disappointed. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of room for creativity with this. There's a lot of room. If it's going to be like a gritty comedy type of thing,
Deadpool, Kingsman.
maybe even like the action comedy style of Guardians.
Yeah, Guardians would be perfect. Like, it's 4 people.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I'm having hope for it.
Yeah, I really want it to be good. But yeah, there's many ways that it could go horribly wrong.
It could go terribly, but we shall see indeed.
Yeah. All right.
The thing, bringing in Marvel producers, I did think that was interesting.
Yes.
Definitely, because I didn't really expect that. I didn't expect Marvel to be sending people over to work on this.
Yeah, I would have, because we mentioned Deadpool, I was actually surprised, like, not to have people who worked on Deadpool or Kingsman or one of those types of movies. But yeah, I'm very surprised that that didn't work out as that it was Marvel, because really, except for their Netflix shows, most of their films are very family friendly for the most part.
Right. Yeah. It's a bit. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting them to hop onto this project. It's a bit off key for them.
Yeah, for them.
They don't really delve into the video games too much. Occasionally they do.
It could be because a producer sent like a memo saying, "Hey, we got this comic booky type movie, so maybe we should have people from Marvel come on."
Well, the other thing is, it's Borderlands has a lot of tie-ins to Mad Max.
Yes.
I feel like.
Oh, and that's a good point.
So
Mad Max made a lot of money.
Mad Max just came out and made a lot of money. But the thing is, Lionsgate has had this name for a while now. For like a bunch of, I don't know exactly how long, many years they've had the rights to make this movie, and they just kind of haven't. So I'm guessing Deadpool and Mad Max are pretty much like Deadpool plus Mad Max equals Borderlands,
which equals money.
Which equals money.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to think about, just because you don't really know where it's going to go.
Yeah. So this brings us to our last segment of the show.
All right.
We're going to recommend some movies that we've seen recently. Or
I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah. You go ahead, Sean.
Okay. So both of us actually went and saw this. It's a Stephen Chow film. Stephen Chow is a Chinese actor. It's called The Mermaid. It's a comedy that came out probably February, roughly. It's just a very funny movie with some goofy CGI, and it's a lot of visual comedy too. And
like Edgar Wright, kind of in a way.
Not, I suppose it's kind of like Edgar Wright. Bit. Yeah, it's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's oh my god.
If you want to have a good laugh, definitely find The Mermaid. I don't know when it's getting a Western release, if it does.
Probably it's going to be on Amazon or on DVD. So
Amazon.
If we saw it in theaters here, it's probably going to come on DVD or something.
If it's region locked, you'll probably be able to find some streaming site. Even though I advise, if the movie does come out on DVD, buy it on DVD or buy it digitally. Don't pirate ever. Please.
Give Stephen Chow your money. He needs that money.
He needs to make more movies.
Yeah, The Mermaid. Oh my god.
It was hilarious.
My pick for a recommended movie, in time for the new Netflix Punisher series.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. I have to go with the 1989 Dolph Lundgren Punisher film. So there are 3 Punisher movies. The 2004 one with Thomas Jane, most people know about. It sucked. There was another one from 2008 called Warzone. It was all right. It was a little. I would say it was the closest they've come to since the Netflix film or Netflix series. I mean, but the 1989 Dolph Lundgren film is one of the best, cheesiest action films ever made, and it's so true to the Punisher comics. Like, you know, when you think of the Punisher now, if you or know about comic books or the Punisher, or if you've seen Daredevil, which is the Marvel series, it's very gritty. He's a vigilante. He kills criminals. He doesn't really fight them. But the Dolph Lundgren movie is so goofy and hilariously stupid. It's amazing. There's an action scene in a theme park where bad guys are coming to shoot the Punisher, and they come sliding down one of those big carnival slides, but they're all sliding down each individual slide while they have that little paper sack thing that you're supposed to ride down on. So they're going down the slide with that, shooting at them.
Oh jeez, you might as well go watch Nick Cage Ghost Rider while you're at it.
Well, there's a part in the movie where he goes into a building with a motorcycle while he's fighting guys.
Oh my god.
It's a terrific movie. If you need a good stupid 80s type action movie, or want to get into the Punisher before the new super serious Netflix series, go watch the 1989 Dolph Lundgren film.
If you just added some one-liners, that would basically be an 80s Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, so that was our first episode of Side Reel. I'm Jake Meck, and this is my host, my guest. This is the real host. No, this is our guest, Sean Hogan. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, and so we'll this is our first episode, and hopefully we can improve things with our upcoming episodes and make them actually somewhat professional and suitable for home viewing. But thank you for watching. Tune in next time.